She was curious about the Ulster Historical Foundation check that was in our check run.
This is the,
So this is
that's
the
not
current
the
one going
final,
out.
this is the final.
Yeah.
I was panicking.
You were going, why does that look all messed up?
We changed that. But yeah, I mean, that's still stayed. But we changed some of the graphics. That's what freaked me out.
So with this design template then, are there multiple versions of certain pages that could be, so like if suddenly there's an influx of half-page ads that somebody wants to do?
There will have to be some adjusting, and that will be, if we decide to have Julie just do all the design work every single time, then she'll be having to coordinate that with Strathmore. If we decide to have Julie just do a template and then try and work with them on that design, that just, we'll have to see it then.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
We're still a work in progress
Yeah.
on how
Yeah.
that's gonna go with the ads.
Right. Well, but like, I mean, you know, if page 13 is always community events and there's one version that has, you know, 2 quarter-page ads and a half-page ad in certain corners, but then there are 2 other versions where those are shifted around, so maybe you've got a portrait orientation one time versus a landscape a different time. Instead of having to redesign the whole thing,
Right.
you just plug in version C of
Right.
that page.
Right, right.
And that's what we're hoping Julie can do with the different
Yeah.
template
Right.
versions
Exactly.
of the various pages to be able to have, you know, the children's colors with 2 quarter-page ads, the children's colors with 1 half-page ad,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
that sort of thing.
Right. Okay, yeah.
But I think you can see the difference between that,
Mhm.
this.
I can remember the difference.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see that again.
As opposed to the new one.
Now, we get to proof the ads before it gets printed.
Yeah, we see
We-
it with
we
the
see
ads.
it.
Yeah, we see with the ads, yeah. So far, they've all been the educational ones.
Yeah,
Or has-
they're primarily things
And the
like
fit-
the
the one
line and
fitness one.
kinder care and,
Yeah, magnesium.
mhm.
The other one is,
Yeah, the MPG Fitness
Not a
is
fan of the
one of our
ad, but-
newest one, but.
But we have
it's
adults
not
too.
our, it's
But
not
that's
our
okay,
choice.
we're good.
Yep.
Right
A
under
lot
Not Your
going
Mama's
on.
Book
It's
Club.
really funny. all the pictures have, they show the gym, but it's totally empty.
Yeah, there's nobody in there. They do that with libraries too. They'll show you how beautiful.
Well, the library is, but they never
Nobody
take
in
pictures
there.
of people in it.
In
We
our,
actually
it would
don't
be
want
really.
people.
It's very difficult to take pictures in our
Don't
library
bring a
with our
picture.
people in it.
That is our concept, you know, house beautiful, better homes and gardens, no people.
Yeah.
And when they do have, it's a perfect family sitting on a sofa together.
Yes.
Right.
Because you know you
Because
hear
that
it all the
happens all the
time.
time.
Multiracial group, right?
Yeah.
With the dog and the cat.
Just to cover all
Does that answer your
Yes,
concerns?
that's what
Yes,
we were
thank you.
wondering about and hoping that your life is not as stressed as it once was,
Oh,
or
no,
is
still
it better?
No.
No, it's not better.
No, this process is the newsletter is,
Very stressful.
it's a lot of work. It's just a lot of time and a lot of back and forth. And getting into a rhythm with these particular people has been challenging. I'm repeating myself a lot.
And
It's
it
all in
has-
email and we're like, did you not read the email I just sent you? I answered
And
your
at
question,
one
I
point,
don't
there was a
understand.
miscommunication because Lisa wasn't getting the email because
Oh.
they had the
the
wrong
letter.
email address. They had
There's
missed.
a missing letter.
There
But
there
they
are
didn't
3
seem to
P's in her
know.
last name total, they only had 2.
But they didn't seem to know that, so.
Yeah.
Communication is really important.
Yes, and also in
For a newsletter?
working with,
No.
Come on now.
working with the bulk mail folks at the post office has added its own layer of challenges.
This is all like deja vu
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
job I used to have.
It is all worth it, however, because we know that the newsletter is, the print newsletter, a lot of organizations are doing away with it, but we know that it is definitely our biggest bang for our buck in terms of marketing and promoting our services.
I'm sure the goal is for the ads to pay for it,
Yeah.
for it to break
Yes,
even.
that's
and
the way we're trying to
How
go.
are you doing on that? I mean,
Not quite yet, but they told us a year.
Yeah,
So 2
they
years, right?
said 1 to 2 years to get to paying for at least fully for the printing. And the goal is to get it to be completely self-sustaining. We have not seen our invoice yet with the full amount for this.
But our original contract had capped that amount, hadn't it? In terms of what we would
Oh,
have to
had
pay.
capped the amount that we would have to pay.
Yeah,
Right.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Right.
Well, I hope we'll get feedback from people.
Yeah.
And
We're-
give us some idea of what their kind of reaction will be.
And particularly once we roll out the new logo
Yeah.
and look.
See if there's any response.
I don't know if we should ask.
Well, thank you.
Privately.
Thank you for your time and your stress, and we appreciate it greatly, so. And now, Crystal, you're on.
Okay. I guess my newly acquired committee, board development, I had come up with an idea that I guess I wanted to present to the board, to start off, kick off this committee. And, since we're considering, looking at referendum again in 2016, I kind of was thinking that maybe we can start to lay some groundwork as far as educating ourselves a little better in that area. So my idea was that maybe we could schedule a day where we can all take a trip and go to a few different libraries, do some library visits that have, you know, the different options that we may be looking at. You know, your technical, multimedia type centers. Julie has a little bit more insight as far as the different opportunities.
The Arlington Heights Library recently underwent a renovation. That would be an excellent one. Lisa's going to visit the Niles Public Library that just finished their recent renovation.
Arlington Heights serves the same population, which is why I thought
We
that
think that might, yeah, that
Really?
might be.
they're about
Yeah.
75,000.
Okay.
They have like 5 times the budget, but.
But it's still very interesting to
Yeah.
see
But it's-
Yes.
what is possible in a community of our size.
And it's a remodeled building, you know, in their downtown. Same sort of a situation.
And then Lisa's going to a meeting at the Niles
Niles.
Library on
They just-
Friday.
Yeah, and they just redone.
And maybe
They're
get a
giving
sense
us a
of if
tour.
that would be another good one. There's always happening, which is another excellent, they have so much. And they actually serve fewer people than we do. They're at about 69,000. About almost 3 times our number. Just saying.
We're not envious of that.
No, there is no jealousy here.
So I think that this is a good idea that Crystal's come up with, and we're gonna look at some dates perhaps, and we'll work.
Preferably when the weather might cooperate
Yeah.
better.
We were thinking perhaps April. That was the
April sounds
kind of
better.
time frame that we had discussed preliminarily.
It has snowed in April though. I still have a wedding on April 16th and it snowed.
I stood up at one the first weekend in May and it was 95 and one of the groomsmen fainted because there was no air conditioning in the church. So you
So
never
it's-
know.
Springtime.
Spring in
Once the
Chicago
snow is
land.
cleared.
So, any discussion,
Any
how are you feeling about
comments?
something like this?
Well, I like it. Is this the kind of thing, are you envisioning where we would try and coordinate with the director there or a board member there.
We just have her walk in and.
A tour.
Yeah,
and-
we're not just gonna do a drop-in, do some coordinating.
Yes.
Well, but I mean, sometimes you learn kind of
Yeah.
interesting things doing it that way too.
Yeah.
And maybe have a set of things that we specifically want to look at or ask about.
Right.
But I do like the idea about visiting a library that's based on our demographics and, that's appealing to me, and to see what possibly be done.
Because there are lots of things that you could do and lots of different directions that you can take your library services depending on what your community is looking for.
Well, I think certainly for us to go and visit a community library that has, let's say, no expectation in terms of, money is money and we will get the best. I think visiting is lovely, but I think that would not serve us at all. And as much as I'd like to see it, maybe I don't want to see it. Because I think it would be very discouraging.
So you
know?
wanna stay with
I want to
it?
stay within, I think, the confines of something that's reasonable for us to consider.
And we bring just.
But sometimes you might be able to find something at one library and the other library might not have that you could still consider
You
in your
don't
scope.
necessarily have to do it on the scale.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You've heard
But you
of
might get some ideas.
Yeah, I was looking at the libraries that were in the Reporter this time. They were featuring the pictures. And I guess I wondered, fireplaces. Fireplaces are always a nice gathering place. We have one. Are they meant to be lit?
Some of them are
Some of them do
The-
like them.
oh, yes, the
And then
crest-
they're
like
in
the
more of an
crest
area
hill.
that's separate
A lot of
from
Yes.
the collections, I presume.
Yes, yeah.
The firewall.
In case you wanna burn a few.
The, like the new Crest Hill branch of the White Oak Library District has a double-sided fireplace. And they primarily, these days, are gas fireplaces. And in most cases, they have the glass that's over them, so you can't even open it. They even have like a little remote control to
Because
turn it on,
liability is
off,
one of the
up,
big
down.
things.
Oh, I'm
With
sure.
children, certainly
Oh, yes.
families.
They're generally in the
Quiet room.
room meant for adults only.
Well, that would be true. The kind of quiet rooms I'm used to are those for people who are in straitjackets, so.
The other kind of quiet room.
Oh,
The
the
kind
quiet
you want to visit. How's that?
Depends on what you consider an upgrade.
Again, there are also libraries out there that have water features. There will be no water feature in any library that I'm directing. I'm just putting that out there.
You've got enough water.
I mean, except the
here.
naturally occurring ones that we get during rapid thaws.
Yeah, that's quite enough water as far as I'm concerned, yes.
No huge aquarium.
Well, I think really, what it is like if you're building a house, you don't look at, houses that you can afford. You look at shelter magazines that have things, you're like, oh, well, I could take that living room idea, or I could take that kitchen idea. You don't do the whole thing, you just take pieces.
Well, that's true. I know you have a few years maybe to do it.
Yeah. And one of the reasons we were talking about this and the planning process for any referendum starts
Yesterday.
18 months to 2 years prior to actually going to referendum. So if we're thinking possible November 2016, we're looking at getting started on the
Pretty quick.
planning process right around the end of this year, beginning of next year. So we've got a little less than a year at this point before we're really kicking off a planning process, if we believe that that may be our timeline. And the actual decision to go to referendum does not have to be made until late summer, early fall. It's depending on the actual date of the November election. It's either the very end of August or very beginning of September. For the board to decide whether or not to place that question on the ballot. There's so much that has to go into the construction of that question itself. that, that's where your 18 months to 2 years just flies by. So it's the perfect time for us to start
Yeah.
getting ideas and wrapping our heads around what is even possible.
We had lunch with some little sandwich at the thing the
Oh,
other day.
that's right.
They're opening, or they're having their
Oh, they are
opening
so
in
excited.
a couple,
Oh, yes.
couple months?
I think they said it. Oh, wasn't it? Yeah.
So that would be one to look at too.
Yeah,
They're
that's
very, very excited.
very small.
Very small.
Yes, yes.
But they were, they passed a referendum and they talked about how we did
And
it.
they were so
Well,
excited.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe to talk to them
About
about their
that
decision-making
type.
process,
Yeah.
planning, what they
Yeah,
considered,
and they-
who they visited,
Yeah.
if they did, would be worthwhile.
They have
So-
a landslide positivity, but in a smaller community, you just have to get that ball rolling.
In any community, you have to get that going.
Definitely, but I think we have too many directions, we have too many balls that maybe have to all roll at the same time.
So, anyway, back to, I think that this is a really good idea. I, hope that we have a good consensus for doing that. And so we'll leave it to Crystal and Julie to come up with some dates and some places.
Well, we wanted to.
We have a committee, so.
Yeah.
The committee can
Yeah, your
kinda
committee.
talk
Well,
about
that's what
this,
I'm
and
saying, your
then-
committee
and then
bring that
we'll-
back to us.
And then we'll bring it back to, work with Julie and then
And-
bring back the finalized
And once we get some
agenda.
feedback from Lisa on Niles, if we want to include
Include
that.
that.
At the moment, we were thinking Arlington Heights, some other staff had also gone to the Gale Borden Library in Elgin recently, and we're just astounded at how wonderful it can truly be, especially if you have a library that's right along the riverbank. But-
How many people have been?
but
to
that's-
the
Supposed to have.
bowling board? Has anyone
Who
been to
else
that?
has been to the Fountaindale Library?
I've been there, but I haven't been to the basement.
Steve Hall's $3 million basement.
So, I mean, that's really close, but also.
And we
very
could also
narrow.
start there.
And I don't know what day works, middle of the week, a weekend day, I don't know. What would be the majority, I guess, decision on that?
If we're looking at April,
Well, I think-
Tuesday, Thursday,
It's Good Friday in April. So we get it.
Tuesday, Thursday, work either.
Yeah, weekdays are better actually, because the weekends.
Well, I take vacation days, so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
When to do that.
As long as
So
we
if
can
you're
get
wanting
around
to do it
four.
during the week, then I'm gonna have to,
Okay.
We're gonna need it far enough in
I'm
advance
gonna
to
need
make sure
some
that we've
time So
got.
I can just take off that day. Which shouldn't be a problem.
I think it sounds like a right.
So we're gonna
Couple
pick a
spots.
beautiful spring day.
Exactly.
Yes, yes.
And maybe we
Without
can see,
flooding.
maybe we can see two,
Yeah.
and lunch in between.
Do a morning and an afternoon.
Or Julie,
No,
is
that would be-
the National Library Week not a good week
That's still in March.
No,
That's
that's
April.
April, and that's our rollout of our new logo.
for you? That's the 7th through the 11th.
No, it's the 14th.
No, unfortunately, it is Easter week with Good Friday thrown in there.
7th through the 11th.
No,
it's
it's
14th.
the 14th
Oh,
through the 20th, yeah.
Oh, okay, you're going to the 18th, yeah.
Which, and our board meeting is that week too, because it's the 16th, it's a really early one, so that's kind of
So
a.
maybe we don't wanna.
So possibly that following week, maybe along about the
22nd or the 24th.
4th, yeah.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Are we talking March?
April.
April, okay.
March is still too iffy.
Okay.
Good idea. Anything else that you want to add to that? Did you have something you wanted to add to that? Or didn't you?
A very brief, in your email, right before I came in here, you will see in the American Libraries Direct online magazine, they had a link. There is an author who wrote a book called Expect More, and it is free to download And he's also got some videos and other resources on his website for any library trustee in the United States, so.
Well, all right.
So go ahead, download it, and it's all about getting community support and expecting more from your library. So I think it feeds right into these development topics, and I thought it would be a perfect thing for us all to add to our reading lists.
Okay, expect more? Expect more. Okay,
So
I'll
I
check it out
forwarded
and-
that email to all of you, it's got all the links in it, and it's available for downloads to Androids and Mac OS and different links.
Okay, very good. We don't need to go into, we're running out of people. We do not need to go to executive session for any reason. And therefore,
The reason we had it one time, very
Is
good, it no
all
longer
done.
is a reason.
I move we adjourn.
well, thank you, Carl. Is there a second?
You bet.
You bet is a second, okay. And all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.